This is FE Peer Review. The date is April the 16th, 2023. Matt Powell misrepresents science and apparently has a reading comprehension problem. You may or may not know the channel The Skeptic. I recommend it highly, and you'll find a link in the description. He put out a video today in response to Matt Powell and an ongoing debate, I guess you could call it that, between Matt Powell and lots of other people, with Matt Powell making lots of misrepresentations about science and mixing in misrepresentations about atheism as well. So Skeptic did a great response and prompted me to go back and look at Matt Powell's original video, which I myself responded to with just a comment on there. He never looked at it, my comment, as far as I can tell. I've decided to make a video with my comment and then expand on it a little bit. So let's go over to Matt Powell's channel. And this was the video, Did Life Start from Rocks? It came out about 3 months ago. And Powell's pulled out a bunch of articles and some scientific papers that he pretends to have them claim that life evolved and emerged from, and so forth, rocks, and that humans were born from rocks. And this is not what these papers and articles say, which I'll touch on a little more, but I'm going to just start with my comment to Matt here. Matt, I'm addressing this to you simply and respectfully. You are probably familiar with the periodic table of elements. It contains 118 basic elements. Quick detour. I will provide a link to the periodic table of elements from Wikipedia in the description. So Matt, if you're reading this, you can actually go take a look at it. It contains 118 basic elements. Everything physical, whether it be living organisms, rocks, or stars, is made up entirely of these elements. It's like having 118 ingredients in your pantry. You can make an awful lot of stuff with various combinations of those ingredients. I'll make a little insertion here, 118 elements that we know of. It's always possible that there may be other elements discovered in the future, which is one of the wonders of science. We keep learning. So, yes, rocks contain iron, for example, as do human bodies. This is why you will find iron on the list of minerals that a human being must have in order to have a healthy body. There is overlap between lots of things. Most mammals are made of mostly the same elements, in various but fairly similar proportions. Rocks are made up of some of the same elements and some different elements, in completely different proportions than mammals. Even stars share elements with humans. We have about 10% of our body mass in the form of hydrogen. Stars are largely made up of hydrogen. So there is some overlap and a lot of differences. As we try to trace life forms back as far as we can, we go back even before single-cell organisms and even simpler forms emerge. These, like everything else, including rocks, are made up of some combination of a few of the 118 elements on the periodic table. By the way, this has nothing to do with atheism, which is simply a question about God. This has to do with biology. There are biologists that believe in God and biologists that don't, and both have no problem with the evident fact that all physical things, including biological organisms, are made up from some combination of some of those 118 elements. Please make a sincere attempt to understand the basics of biology and don't conflate it with beliefs in or against God existing. People and rocks and stars are all made up of the same basic elements. But the beauty of it is in how it all comes together to result in 3 vastly different results. Believe in God if you wish. In that case, you might consider the 118 elements the ingredients in God's pantry. Say all you want about atheists, but please keep in mind that atheism and science are 2 different things. I'd like to share a few resources with Matt so that if he chooses to, he could actually continue to educate himself a little bit. Here's an article from a website called News Medical Life Sciences, a simple description of the chemical elements that make up the human body. And I'll put the link in the description. And I'm not going to read the whole article here, but I'm going to scroll down and we'll just take a quick glance through the list. So we have oxygen, as the first ingredient. This is by body mass. 65% of our body mass is oxygen. Second ingredient is carbon at 18%. Hydrogen is the third at 10%. Now, oxygen and hydrogen, comprising 75% of our body mass, are of course the components of water, H2O. And carbon is commonly referred to as organic or inorganic. At the time in Earth's history, before there was organic life, biological life, there would not have been organic carbon. There would have been inorganic carbon, but carbon would have existed. So carbon does not depend on life to exist. Organic carbon is simply a combination of carbon bounded to hydrogen. That's the simplest way I can explain it, and it's probably not the way a biologist would explain it, but I'm not a biologist, so be patient with me. Okay, continuing down the list. Nitrogen, 3%. Calcium, 1.4%. Phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, magnesium. And that takes us to 99 point something percent, I believe, something like 99.15%. And then after that, the last 0.85% is trace elements. So if you look at this list of ingredients here from God's pantry, you'll find that all of this stuff is in a mineral environment. And when that mineral environment is in contact with water, many of these substances will be dissolved into the water. And this is the stuff, these were the ingredients from which biological life developed, within which biological life developed. That's about as simplest as I can make it for you, Matt. Now, there was another problem with your video, which I'm not going to go into detail about, but I'm going to go back to it, and I'm just going to point out that you cherry pick from the articles. You do not read the articles. You do not read any kind of subtlety into the way people write. And if you were to actually read those articles thoughtfully and intelligently, trying to understand what the authors are saying and not what you want them to say, you would find that they are not, any of them, not a single one of the articles you cited, are saying that life evolved directly from non-life, from rocks. That's not what they're saying. They are saying that the ingredients of the environment are the components from which organic life gradually, in very, very tiny incremental steps, formed. So, Matt, lots of people in the comments to this video pointed out in detail where you got it wrong and called you out on this. And I don't see any responses from you on any of them. So you're probably not reading any of them. But that's typical. My hope is that somebody who's curious about these questions, but who has not got opinions and might run across your material, might also run across this video. And if that person is you watching this video right now, read those articles. Don't just take what Matt says at his word. Read them thoughtfully, intelligently, attempting to understand what the authors are saying. And if there are things you don't understand in the articles, get yourself educated and research those things you don't understand further. Matt Powell is not a biologist by any stretch of the word. I'm not a biologist either, but I did spend 8 years at a university and managed to pick up a little bit of science along the way while I studied engineering. So I think I probably know a little bit more about this stuff than Matt Powell. But go to people who really know this stuff and learn from them. They know what they're talking about. Matt Powell is the young man who thinks he knows everything about everything, but in fact knows almost nothing about anything. If only he were honest and interested in learning, but I can see that he's not, so I have no respect for him. If he changes, I'll change my view. That's Matt. That's enough for today. I'm ranting now. So y'all have a wonderful day, and check out the resources in the description, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.